Hello, world. Welcome to Hello World, where we help you rediscover the good that is all around us. Now imagine you're sitting in a church pew on a Sunday listening to your sermon, and your pastor issued a challenge that's so powerful, not only changed your life, but lives of thousands. Glenn and Deborah used their gifts and talents to form First Blessing, which provides properly fitting shoes for children. Thank you so much for joining us on our podcast, Glenn and Deborah.
Thank you very much for inviting us to be on your podcast. We're excited to participate.
And later on, we're going to learn a little bit more about Sarah as we talk more about First Blessings.
Yes.
But first of all, why don't you share with our audience a little bit about yourselves, your family, and what did y'all do before First Blessing became a thing?
Well, I was in the shoe business for about 30 years prior to First Blessing. I think God was preparing me for this ministry because He was showing me how big the need was out there in the great state of Texas, and how many people's lives could be impacted by a new pair of shoes. And Deborah was in the TV and radio business prior to launching First Blessing, and she's the brains behind the marketing part of it, as well as Deborah has a background in wholesale sock business.
Oh.
And so as a result, she was well equipped to be a buyer of product for us, and she handles all of the purchasing of the socks and the purchasing of the toddler shoes, which everybody always raves about and goo-goos about.
So cute.
I have to slap their hands, or they, well, do you have this in a lady size 7? No, I don't have it in a lady size 7. So, Deborah and I have been married 34 years.
Ooh.
About to be 35 in February, though.
33, about to be 30.
Okay, 33, about to be 34.
Somewhere up there.
Somewhere
Yeah.
in that. And we have a blended family.
Okay.
Deborah and I have a son named Taylor. Then we have Kelsey, Carrie, and Kyle. And we're very proud to say that they're all Christians, and they're all involved in different aspects of their churches and so on and so forth. Our youngest is just almost finished with his medical training, and is about to, he's one of those UT guys that's going to change the world. You know, what starts here changes the world. So
Fantastic.
we're excited about that. You know, you never know what God is doing with your life, but I believe that God was preparing me for this ministry for the 30 years that I was.
In the shoe business.
In the shoe business, he just kept. I traveled all over the state of Texas as a regional manager for a major shoe company, and as a result, I got to mix and mingle with all kinds of different people from the South Texas border all the way up to the Red River, and
you made a lot of connections.
Made a lot of connections. I just was reminded of that yesterday when someone said to me, "You have a lot of connections," and
It's very helpful indeed.
I did not know that was happening when it was happening, but it's been most helpful.
It's interesting. You have the shoes and you have the socks. What a pair, you know?
Exactly.
No pun intended.
Exactly. Well, sometimes the kids, the socks are so cute that the kids would rather pick out the socks than they would the shoes.
I am partial to the tiny shoes. They're just adorable. The more they look like adult shoes, the cuter they are.
Right.
Right.
Okay, great. Anything you'd like to share about your? He covered it well.
He covered it pretty well.
Very, very
The only thing he left out was hockey.
What's hockey?
Mrs. Lackey at one time was the only female general manager of a hockey team in the world.
Really?
Right here in Belton, Texas. She was the general manager of a minor league hockey team called the Central Texas Stampede.
Wow. Now that is very unusual. First of all, hockey in Texas, okay, and then a female general manager.
Yeah.
I would like to find out about this particular challenge that you heard at church.
On this particular Sunday morning, Dr. Ronnie Marriott, who was our pastor at the time and is now the president of Texas Baptist, issued a challenge for everyone in the congregation to create something that would reach out and touch the unincluded and the unchurched.
I understand unchurched. What does unincluded mean?
Well, in our society, there are a lot of people that are on the outside. And so our challenge was to reach out to those people who don't have a societal relationship, much less a church relationship. With Deborah's background and my background, we began to brainstorm what we thought we could do to make that happen.
The challenge was to find a way to reach the unchurched and the unincluded, that you have to come up with something.
Right.
What was going through, were you there at the same time? Were you hearing both of you at the same time?
Yes.
What was going through your minds when you heard that? Was it like an impactful challenge at the time, or something you had to noodle about a little bit?
I think it was impactful. I'm evangelistic in nature. Too often we miss a scripture where Jesus talks about going into Jerusalem first. Well, that was his hometown. Sometimes we get lost in the fact that we want to go across the water or wherever, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we want to stay basically in the state of Texas.
Okay.
And that's where that comes from.
Okay.
We believe that's the scriptural mission that was given to us, was to stay in the state of Texas and spread the word in the state of Texas. When God gave us this idea, we had no idea he had us headed in the direction that he had us headed in.
Yes.
So
it started with something you wanted to do to help locally with your community.
We were going to do it at our local church, and so we formulated the idea, put it in paper, took it to our pastor, and said, "What do you think if we do this?" And he liked it, and he said, why don't you take it to the deacons? And so we took it to the deacons and presented it to the deacons, and okay, we like the idea, but who's going to do it? Okay, and
idea makers are many, but doers are
doers. That's right, and as Sarah will tell you, because she leads one of these programs at her church, it takes somebody to take the lead in a local church, and not somebody from the outside to come in and say, okay, well, you do this, you do that, you do this, so on and so forth. It takes somebody local to do this. So we did it the first time locally, and the first year we had 327 kids show up for our first blessing, and about 100 volunteers, and it was a beautiful body of Christ kind of thing, because we had people from all over the congregation doing different things, cooking pancakes, cooking sausage, measuring feet, putting on socks. And the most beautiful part is when when our guests sit down at a table and have a meal with a member of our congregation or the congregation, and they get to share a meal, talk about prayer needs, talk about church, talk about salvation. That makes First Blessing different than just handing out a pair of shoes.
Sure.
I like to say, First Blessing is not about the shoes. It's about the love.
Understand.
If we can just share the love, then that's what we want to do.
So when you both sat down and talked about it, was this First Blessing this immediate solution to paper?
This was pretty much it.
This is it.
This is it. I think Deb and I sat there and back and forth on the paper, and but decided, okay, this was the 7-step program because there is study out there, statistics out there that say that if people from the outside meet 7 people, connect with 7 people from the church, they are 80% more likely to connect with the church and come back, and so on and so
Interesting.
forth. So those 7 steps were put into place for 2 reasons: to fulfill that statistic, but also so that the local congregation people get a real blessing. I mean, I'm overwhelmed usually with people telling me what a blessing it is for them to get to come and serve.
And by the way, everybody, we're sitting in this unassuming, as he calls it, the barn, and you'll see behind him, these are all bags and bags and bags of shoes. So we're on location.
Yes.
We're in the heart of what's happening in First Blessing. But forming this idea and getting it through the church, how long did that take?
It took about 6 months.
6 months. So it's not like, let's go.
No. When we originally wrote the program, so to speak, we suggested that it takes 6 months, but from the time that that you decide to do it to the time that it actually executes it. We have actually done it much faster than that, as Sarah will tell you. We have some people that last minute us and say, okay, and but for the most part, it's to get everything right, to do everything right, to get the training right. It's a good 6 months.
Takes a while. So walk us through a First Blessing event.
First of all, it starts months out. Sarah's making sure that I don't overbook myself, which I'm very capable of doing. The first step is for someone to decide they want to do it, and we'll work with them. Once the event takes place, the children are registered, and that's really where Sarah comes in, because Sarah has created an incredible program that we give to each church so that they can get it out there on Facebook or wherever they want to, so that the children can register. We use schools, we use food banks, we use social media.
Like a marketing kit? Is it like a PR kit to help them?
Some of it is. I try to use tools that are readily accessible to churches, because that's generally
True.
the majority of the people that host events.
Gotcha.
And so you mentioned earlier about teaching people to fish, and that's kind of the nuance of that. And so
Yes.
we have an event resources page on our website strictly for that, because not everybody is dedicated to doing that in their church home. So it just kind of helps them get an invitation out, get a QR code, or here's the link to send out in an email for them to register. So we try to make it as easy as possible.
Gotcha. So first get the kids.
First
Sign up.
we got to get the kids signed up. We keep the church informed as to how many kids they got registered. And Sarah is watching it, and when they get to the number, then Sarah turns it off. So we don't overdo what they want to do. And then when the kids come, we ask for volunteers to stand in the parking lot and tell people where to park and to greet people. We have bilingual people there, so that if Hispanics or whoever comes, then we can communicate with them and tell them, okay, you need to park over here, and you need to go here. And then when they get inside the building, then they go to a registration desk. That's step number 1. And they get checked in.
They get checked in.
Now, we encourage the congregations not to say no. If somebody shows up, say yes. Don't say no. Don't give a negative impression. So first step is to get them registered. The next step is they get led down a hall, usually, to where the meal is. And every family sits at a table and shares a meal with a couple from the congregation.
And this is where the hosting church volunteers can interact.
Absolutely.
With the unchurched and the unincluded.
That is correct. And they share a meal. Being a good Baptist boy, I know about eating. And Baptists like to eat, so we put that part in there for two reasons. Number one, it's a great way to break the ice
Yes.
with the guest. And secondly, it gets more people involved in the volunteering process. There may be people there that can cook a mean pancake, but they wouldn't sit at that table and
Yes.
share the gospel of Jesus Christ. And Keith and Johnny are over here in the background, and they're the guys that are pulling these shoes and taking them
From here?
from right here. They're taking these shoes. Yesterday we took 2,000 pairs of shoes to Kerrville. They're the guys pulling these shoes and making sure that we've got the right sizes, because Sarah, once the kids register, she sends me a warehouse report and says, okay, you need 36 pair of size 2s, and we need 42 pairs of size whatever.
Yes.
So without Sarah doing that, we'd be pulling our hair out.
You'd be bringing everything just in
Yes,
case,
just
right?
in case.
Well, in the beginning, we did this in our garage,
Oh my.
and it was me and Deb and a prayer
A very long prayer.
to get the right shoes pulled.
Yeah.
And now that the Lord sent us Sarah, and
Aw.
she can push a button and make that happen, and get us a warehouse report, and then the guys, Keith and Johnny,
Yes.
they go after it. They pick the shoes, and they are incredibly picky about, well, we've already got one of these. Let's don't take another one. Let's take,
To bring variety.
they bring
Yes.
variety.
So check-in, meals.
Once the meal's over with, and amazing things happen at that table. It's that opportunity to let the Holy Spirit work. Just set it up and let the Holy Spirit work. Let the love of Christ take place. All right, then we're going to go from the meal. We're going to go and we're going to measure the kids' feet, because we want them in properly fitted shoes. Some churches actually wash the kids' feet.
Oh,
They
yes.
we'd have been there all day yesterday if we.
With 600, almost 600 kids.
Yes.
We have one church right outside of town here that actually did the water washing of feet. Most of the churches use wipes, wipes, and do it. We have a man in Corpus Christi, Texas. His wife drives him to the church. He gets out of the car onto a walker, makes his way up to the church, goes into the room where he sits with his walker sitting next to him, and he says, God told me I needed to wash every one of these kids' feet. And he's just a precious man, just
Wow.
a precious man. And when they do that, they tell the story of Jesus washing feet. And I've seen mothers just weeping because they understand how much love the people have if
For
they're going
them.
to wash my kids' feet. Then we hand them socks. They get to pick out socks. They get to pick out Deborah's socks.
Yes, the
And,
one that Deborah got.
Then they get to go into the shoe room, where there are 3 shoes for every kid that are registered.
You bring 3 pairs of shoes for every registered child, so that
They get to pick.
They have a selection.
they get have selection. Now, I remember you telling me about that yesterday. I was amazed because when I saw how many shoes were still in the shoe room and already 400 kids went by, you thought it was very important for them to have a choice. Why is that?
Having been in the business as long as I've been in the business, there are a lot of kids out there wearing hand-me-down shoes. In Kerrville 7 years ago, the first boy that ever came through had a hole in the toe and a sock stuck in the toe, and the other shoe had a hole in the bottom and a sock stuck in the bottom of that shoe. And when we gave him the shoes, it was a pair of Skechers that lit up. He came back to the man that had put them on him, and he said, do I get to keep them?
Yes.
And of course the man told him yes. And we kept those shoes. I think we still have those shoes to this day. It's just so important, especially in certain cultures, or a status thing.
Yes.
And if they can go to school or church or wherever and tell their friends that they got a new pair of shoes, and they can tell them where they got them.
I got new shoes from church.
Yes, that's right.
And that they probably don't often get new shoes, like you say, hand-me-downs.
Right.
But get to choose the shoes,
Right.
to have choices, because they probably don't have a lot of choices in their lives at that time.
Once the kids get their shoes, they go to a checkout station, which is a special area, because there they get the shoes put in a bag.
Like they were in a store.
Just like they were in the store. Sometimes the bags are made.
Yes, sometimes they are.
There's a special maid.
Well, so this last year when we had our event at church, so I think this was our second year that we did it. The ladies group, the crafting group at our church, decided to hand sew drawstring bags for the kids.
How fun.
And so they had a whole selection of just hand sewn bags from various fabrics, and some of the kids were like, "Can we pick one of these?" And we're like, "Yeah, take your pick, whichever one you want." And they had their little drawstring bag that they took, and so it worked out well because they could use it as a backpack if they wanted to.
So people who can make mean pancakes and people who can sew, everybody can get involved in
Oh,
that.
absolutely.
Absolutely. The whole body of Christ can get involved. And we have a lady at Trinity Church in Kerrville that actually started that program. That's what she does. I mean, she will make 300 to 400 of these a year, and she will sit at a table and lay those things out. And it's almost like she autographs them.
That's amazing.
She's so into that. So they and in that process, the checkout. Some churches put Bibles in the bags. They put church information in the bags. Whatever you want to send home with them. And then the last step, which has always been really important to me, no matter how big or small the church is we like for the pastor and his wife to be the last step, so that they don't leave not knowing who the pastor and his wife is.
This is amazing. The 7 steps, each step is intentional. Each step has its purpose, and and it seems like each church can customize, if you will, the experience during each of the steps.
That's right.
To what they can do and have the resources for.
Just as yesterday, where the Davises had, Brent and Sarah had young people face painting other young people and blowing up balloons for other young people. Those aren't part of the 7 steps, original 7 steps, but they are just a great thing.
Yes.
Because imagine a little kid getting face painted by another kid. Oh, Mommy, I want to go back. I want to go back to that church because it's a fun church.
I heard the little kid as she was face painting, and she's not a very old kid. It was just another youngster. She has her Leadership Academy shirt on. As she was face painting, she asked her little friend, "Do you go to church?" Like they know to do that. It's very, very cute.
Yeah.
So you said that your very first event had how many? You give out how many shoes?
327.
327, and now, how many? What's the biggest event? How many shoes?
Well, we'll have some that will have 500 or 600, but again, I want to emphasize for your audience out there, it doesn't have to be 500 or 600. We've also done them. We've done one this year where we did 30.
Yes.
And that's okay.
Yes.
Johnny and Keith are great at this, and they did a great job.
Yes. You also came out for our episode with the Johnsons. You came out and brought the shoes for the kids, the Afghan kids.
The Afghan kids. That ministry I talk about all the time because it's such a unique experience. I was touched so deeply by the opportunity to work with.
Yes, that was such a great partnership, and saw that happen. So for this short amount of time I've been podcasting, if you will, I've already seen two First Blessing events.
Right.
Big scale and small scale,
Yeah, right.
and impact's the same. The kids walked out tall.
Right.
It doesn't get old, does it? Right? You've done so many events now.
It doesn't get old, and we get a 24-hour. It's like winning any kind of athletic contest. You get to glory in it for 24 hours, and then
Get back in it.
tomorrow morning we'll be out here doing the grunt work. So, and getting ready for the next one.
How do you sustain this? How do you go through fundraising? How do you?
Well, for 10 years, it's been Deborah and I. I call her the Imelda Marco of Texas because she owns more shoes than anybody I know of in the state of Texas. And at times there's 5,000 pairs of shoes in this building. And there are times when I may be a little anxious about the finances, but God always comes through. He always comes through. Deborah and I have actually tried to outgive God. We, at one point, gave everything that I made back to the Lord, and He always provided. We're in a new chapter of our life in that Deborah's now retired, I'm retired. We had doors open for us that we never dreamed would open, beginning to partner with a major shoe company called Shoe Sensation, and we explained to the church that we ask for a $23 donation for every shoe that's given away. I believe that is a real fair price based upon the price of shoes and based upon that these are brand name shoes. That covers the shoes, it covers the socks, and it covers transportation, usually 2 or 3 times to a site to set it up and all that kind of stuff. And if I have to spend the night, which we did in Kerrville, then I have to get a hotel room. And
Sure.
there are expenses, and there is no fairy godmother.
No angel investor.
No angel investor.
This is just
This was our thing. We started it financially ourselves. I like working for the Lord. As long as the Lord allows me to be on this earth, I'm gonna try to keep working for Him.
It's not a small amount of work.
No, it's not.
And the fact that you allow the kids to have choices, and you're carrying inventory for them to have choices. So that's hard. So I was just wanting to see how do you sustain, and thank you for your openness to share that. And
you know, part of this is based upon the turn, because what didn't get used yesterday,
you'll use it the next
2 weeks from now we'll use it. And what Sarah may not like, Deborah may like. And as a result, they're not bad shoes just because they didn't get used in
one instance.
You saw the shoes on the table there. Those, and I'm the beneficiary, we're the beneficiary of the fact that shoe stores aren't selling all of their shoes because they don't have them in the right place.
As others are hearing about you, vendors might be able to partner or at least provide you at a cost
Absolutely.
efficient way.
Let me just kind of tell you the latest, greatest thing that God has opened a door for us. I recently met a man in Comanche, Texas, who has a brother, Fred. And Fred deals with amputees and is working with Paralympic female soccer players. So Fred tells me about his ministry, and in that conversation we talk about where he could get singles. We have about 200 pair of singles where we gave away the left, we did whatever, didn't come back home. I pick up the phone and I call the CEO, Dave, of Shoe Sensation, and I say to Dave, what do you do with your singles? And he tells me what he does, and I tell him what I'm up to. And he said, I can get him all the singles that he wants. So we're going to be sending singles all across the world to people who need just one shoe. Then I say to him, what about soccer shoes? He says, I'm good friends with the people in Mexico who have a shoe company that is on the caliber of that Swish guy. And he can get us soccer shoes. So we're looking now at putting soccer shoes on Paralympic women's soccer teams that will be in the Paralympics, and he will be there. So God just keeps expanding this thing to, I don't know, I wake up in the morning and try to do what I can to follow his will.
That's amazing, and I think the more people know about it, they wanted to either share this opportunity with other churches. Yesterday, someone told us about how it went. This First Blessing had an event in Mexico where the whole town. Would you?
You're gonna make me cry, aren't you?
Yes, because it was, and I hope to get the pictures.
So last fall, Herb from Impact Church in Kerrville called me, said we want to go across the river and do a First Blessing. They told me that they were going to put the shoes in bags and put them on a barge. It's a rope barge they pull across the river. After the pastor and I had a conversation about, okay, which one of us lost our mind? Because you're taking a big gamble. We're taking, you want to take shoes to 300 people on the other side of the border, and that means, and you want to do it like a First Blessing, so that means there's 900 pairs of shoes going to be floated across, put on donkeys, and taken up to this little village. So the one good thing they had going for them is they have a lady out there named Sandra. She just did it perfectly. We had favor with the Border Patrol on this side and favor on the other side. No one ever questioned us. I mean, you just don't do that. You just don't take 1,000 pairs of shoes across the border into Mexico without paying some kind of tariff or whatever. So they got them across the border. They texted me pictures of them with the bags on the donkeys going up the hill.
Yes.
And once they got there, a man donated a little cafe to have it in, and they treated all 300 members of that community and communities from around. Even some of the Border Patrol people came and got new shoes. And when it was over with, they loaded them all back up, floated them back across the river, and brought them back.
The way they told the story, just like, it's amazing. And the whole town. So this wasn't so much just children.
Right.
This was the whole town. So I can just imagine when you go there that period of time, everybody's in new shoes. Like everybody's in new shoes. That's amazing. So First Blessing went to Mexico.
We've been to Mexico.
We've been to Mexico. That's amazing. How have you seen First Blessing transform the lives of the families that receive shoes? I think you share some, but were there any other anecdotes you'd like to share?
The unchurched and unincluded are looking for someone to care about them. They're looking for someone to not judge them, to just purely love on them, to understand, yes, I got problems, and I want to overcome those problems, but I just need somebody to love on me in the meantime until I get to a point where I can accept myself and I can be accepted. And I see that happening all the time. I've heard stories of people coming to First Blessing, then joining the church. We had an experience in Brownsville, Texas, where a young lady came to a First Blessing event, and after she got her shoes, she's a woman in her 20s or something, and after she got her shoes, she told the pastor, I want to stay. I want to stay and help. I want to be a part of this. And that's the kind of thing that we want people to feel. We want people to feel loved.
Yes.
And that they can be a part of it. That's part of the impact that we've seen In 2022, we had over 200 baptisms that were directly impacted by First Blessing, and just hundreds of people that were touched by this process.
Since we have Sarah here, I know you not only help out with this
Yes.
operations, the brain behind the scenes says it, but you also you're part of the church that hosts events.
Yes.
Share with us, how does the First Blessing event transform your church, the body of Christ? The
So
impact?
First Blessing is unique from a church standpoint in the sense that everybody can participate. There's a role for everybody to play and a part for everybody to play. So it really serves to bring and unite the church body for a sole purpose of bringing shoes to these families and meeting families in their community, in their immediate community most times. For our event, we partner with counselors at school and in the neighborhood of the church to bring their students, because they know intimately which families are struggling and which need help. So they come in, and it's really the first year that we did it, it was really eye-opening to see people that you never would have thought play a role and volunteer and excel at it. So we have, and it's from all ages, from itty bitties all the way to the senior adults that are in the church. There is a
Everybody
role
helps.
for them to play. They were like, well, I can't stand, so I can't, there is a place for you.
You can pray.
You can pray. You can help at checkout. Where it's very accommodating in that sense. And I just remember seeing several of our youth. They were literally taking serving trays. They had serving carts and going from table to table and taking orders and saying, "What would you like for lunch?" We were serving hot dogs and hamburgers, I think. And what kind of chips would you like? Would you like, water or tea, or all these kinds of things? And they excelled at it and shown. It was just marvelous to see.
That's
It's such a great thing.
great thing for the whole community, the whole church. One of the things I think I shared with Glenn yesterday is many of our podcast guests, they do a lot of service. So I've always asked, what inspired you? And many of them says because their parents modeled it. So having multi-generations serve together is modeling for the younger generations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And a lot of it also exposes intergenerational relationships, because a lot of the people volunteer in spaces where they don't normally get to interact
Yes.
with each other on a day-to-day basis. And so it puts those people together, and they find those interests and those likes that they may not have otherwise known.
Yes. Now, I would like to ask, how has this impacted you too?
I think the biggest thing for me is just not realizing what the real need was. And to see these little kids when they get the shoes on, and a lot of those little toddler shoes light up,
Yes.
and they'll go put on them, and they just run around and stomp their feet, and
Yes.
they're so excited to look at those lights going on and off their shoes. So, but that's been my biggest thing, is just not realizing that there was such a need, I think.
When I first heard about it, I was thinking it is a shoe event. It's a free shoe event. But seeing how intentional it is, and the impact, not just for your own family and your team, which we will meet the rest of the team when we give a little tour of this place, but also the church family that hosts it. And I've heard from yesterday, the many volunteers, it's their favorite event of the year. They love it. They come year over year to do it, and it's a big deal.
We're incredibly touched by the things people have to say about First Blessing,
Yes, yes.
and we look forward to the future.
And one of the other things is that when we were starting it, was that we realized it would be a really good local mission. And so many of the bigger churches, they have the big mission trips that they go wherever. But there's so many people at the church that never get to go on those mission trips because they're expensive and,
Yes.
all that kind of stuff. So it's been a really good thing to have it something local for them.
That's a really good point.
And to see it affecting children that live in their neighborhoods.
If our listeners or our viewers didn't hear all of this full podcast, and you want them to at least have one or two takeaways, what would you want them to take away from our conversation today?
Well, it has to be, one of them has to be just love the Lord. Just love the Lord. Our ministry is based upon Matthew 25. When he talks about, when did I see you? They're all around you. As I travel, I see a lot of Matthew 25s out there. Don't let your age, don't let your finances, just don't let anything stand in the way. Give it to the Lord and he'll take care of it.
Just before we conclude and get out of our seats, I just really want to thank you all for spending
Thank you.
the time.
We are honored.
Now, if a church or children's ministry or some other people's watching our episode would like to do a First Blessing event, what do they do? What do they have to do? Who do they have to contact? I'm looking over here.
Points this direction.
Yes.
I'm the one that's up. They can reach out to us on our website, firstblessing.org. There's a contact form on there that takes their information and sends us an email and lets us know that they're interested. And then usually Glenn will reach out to them and make that contact first. And then we just go back and forth and go from there. So let's end this with, how did you come up with the name First Blessing?
We were at a First Baptist church. So the first comes from that, and the blessing comes from the fact that we knew that these children were going and their families were going to be blessed. So we put the first and the blessing together.
Perfect. Well, thank you all so much.
Thank you.
So we are now, as you can see, in the barn where all the shoes are, and the two most important helpers. And we have Keith and Johnny. And I'm going to put this right there in front of you. But how long have y'all been helping with First Blessing?
I've been about a year now. And I think Johnny's been quite a bit longer.
Yes, about a year and a half.
About a year and a half?
Yes.
So how has First Blessing, you've been to the events, right?
Yes.
How do you feel about it?
It's amazing. It's a God thing for sure. When I first got involved, I really did it. No, I knew Glenn. I'd met him at church. I knew he had a mission that he was on, and I'm like, I could love to help you out. And going to the events is a special thing because you get to see the love, the kids running as fast as they can with a brand new pair of shoes, and the smiles on their face and all that good stuff. And it's impacted my life quite a bit. And I'm raising a couple of grandkids, and I bring them out here, and they've gotten into we're really wanting to help others and stuff like that. So it's been a blessing to my family.
How about you?
Oh, yes, it's been a blessing. And just, being new to it, it's just like I try to get my family involved, and having my sons come in, they say it's fantastic. And just seeing the children when they receive their shoes, and it's just, you can't hold back. It's hard to hold back the tears sometimes.
It's so hard.
It's hard to hold back.
So what do y'all do? This is they said this is your domain. This is your kingdom. What do y'all do with all these shoes?
All the shoes that you see in bags come from Glenn orders them, and they show up at his house in cases and boxes, and some of the boxes you can see on top of the shelf that haven't been. So we take them out, sort them, tie them together, put them in the bags, get them ready to go. And then when Sarah gives us a warehouse report, gives us a number, then we'll count, make sure we got not all black shoes, not all, give kids a good choice. So it's very important that they get to choose what shoe they have, that they're happy with their shoes. So
thank you guys for doing that, because this is a lot of behind the scenes. You don't see the hard work behind it, and then when it's all out on the table and it looks so cute.
Right. And it's amazing that what you saw yesterday in Kerrville came out of here in this
humble little place.
It works though. It works. That's all that matters.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here.
Yes. I hope you enjoyed the episode. We have a lot of fun putting the episodes together, trying to bring you quality guests and good content so that we can inspire each of us to be our best version of ourselves. It would mean so much to us if you would subscribe to our channel and like our videos. Hope to see you next time.